The Headstock 200 is the little sibling of the Headstock 500 by All Mountain Adventures, a 200km or 130-mile bikepacking route around the south and mid Wales, including the Black Mountains, the Brecon Beacons and some of San Helen. And with just having completed the route, I will try to give you some insight into what to expect if you decide to take it on for yourself, including what bike is best, the wild camping. We will be giving this route a difficulty rating, 1 being easy and 10 being hard, and also my overall rating, again 10 being the best thing since sliced bread, and 1, well, don't even bother. So let's quickly jump into this before you ride the Headstock 200. Headstock 200 is a bikepacking route created by All Mountain Adventures and will be an organised bikepacking adventure in late May. The route is offered in 2 versions, the shorter one, the Headstock 200, or the longer one that I have covered in a previous video, the Headstock 500. The Headstock 200 consists of mostly all off-road, traffic-free. However, there are a couple of road sections, most of which are on quiet, narrow country lanes. So do expect to see the odd car every now and then, but the majority of your time you are away from the traffic and are on the Welsh trails. Just like the Headstock 500, the Welsh landscape and the Welsh trails can be hard going, with the terrain being rough, rocky, and you guessed it, steep. Don't expect this one to be an easy one. Don't worry though, because this route has some incredible descents too. You will ride over some incredible trails with great views, including the iconic Gap climb in the Brecon Beacons, which is an incredibly rewarding climb. A steady climb up to the top with a couple of big rocky sections here and there, but the views are incredible and it's a must-do climb and descent. Both of these routes will be starting in a town called Rogerstone, just a stone's throw away from Newport, South Wales. This is an organised ride that you pay to enter and will have feed stations, checkpoints, etc. I will leave a link in the video description if you want to consider entering. Who's it for? So the question, who is it for? Well, just like the Headstock 500, I won't say it is for an absolute beginner, because I don't feel Wales really suits complete beginner rides. However, it is noticeably easier than the Headstock 500 because, well, it's obviously shorter. However, it's still Wales. The trails can be tough going and slow going in places, and Wales can be an unpredictable place to ride with the ever-changing weather and trails. That being said, this ride has a fairly good balance of challenging terrain to easy rolling terrain. I say easy, but it is often steep, but rideable if you've got the energy and the gears. The ride typically sees you tackle some challenging terrain for a couple of hours and then rewards you with some smoother trails to let you recover. So I would recommend this to someone who does have a good level of bike handling skills and perhaps has some bikepacking experience already, but is looking to challenge themselves, push themselves both mentally and physically. Maybe you have done a few routes around England and now want to experience the Welsh hills. Then this might be a good route option to dive into some Welsh bikepacking and see what it has to offer. Spoiler alert, it's steep. I took on the Headstock 500 on the rigid mountain bike and that was the right call. But the Headstock 200, I wanted to get a different perspective. I know a few of the viewers of this channel have entered this ride and will be taking it on their gravel bikes. So I wanted to see how the gravel bike fared on a Welsh bikepacking route. And just a disclaimer, I love my gravel bike and I have ridden a gravel bike all over the UK, including Wales many times. And for me, Wales and the gravel bike, in my opinion, just don't really go well together. The trails are steep and the nature of the gravel bike it's just a lot harder to get over the rear wheel and enjoy them technical steep descents. The trails tend to be rougher with plenty of big rocks to navigate, which the smaller tyres typically are not always the best at getting through these sections. So with that being said, how was the Headstock 200 on the gravel bike? Well, my opinion still stands, and although you can get through on a gravel bike, it's not the best bike for the job. You will find yourself underbiked on a lot of sections, and you will have to ride with a bit more caution. There are of course some sections of this route that the gravel bike is more than capable. The last 20 to 30 miles of this route is mostly along some nice cycle paths, and there are a few road sections that will benefit from the gravel bike. However, to really enjoy the main points of this ride, I would want a mountain bike. You will get through it on a gravel bike, but you are giving yourself a lot more work if you choose that option on this route. Also, it probably does not need mentioning, but get the easiest gearing you can and try to pack light to give yourself the best chance of getting up them good old Welsh steep climbs. Wales is one of them places where it's not really allowed without permission from the landowner. However, Wales also has a lot of very remote places, and as long as you leave no trace, set up late and leave early, you will be fine. There is plenty of places along this route you can hunker down for the night. I didn't really have any issues along this route in finding places to sleep, but you will be wanting either a tent or a bivvy. And bear in mind that the weather can be unpredictable, so make sure you have the correct gear to keep you dry and warm. There is also a small bovvy just off the official trail at around the 40 miles mark. It is just a small shelter with some chairs and a place for a fire, but if you need to take shelter there, it's there. The trail down to the bovvy can be a bit tricky with a bike, however, so proceed with caution. As this route is going to be an organised ride, there will be checkpoints with feed stations including high five nutrition, water and snacks, so you will have that to look forward to. This route does also pass through a couple of small towns where you can restock your supplies if need be. The main places are Abergavenny. There is a small cafe shop just before you get onto the canal called the Walnut Tree. The route roughly passes through somewhere with a shop around every 30 to 40 miles, so you just need to be able to carry a small amount of food to keep you going. This route starts and finishes in Rogerstone, a few miles outside of Newport, South Wales. There is a train station in Rogerstone, or alternatively, once you get to Newport, you can just cycle along the Monmouthshire Canal to the start of this ride. Depending on where you are coming from, you will likely find yourself on a Great Western Railway train, which are not the best for bikes. The trains coming from London will require a bike reservation, and they use the smallest hooks, so fitting their mountain bike tyres can be a pain. The Transport for Wales trains are very hit and miss, with them either being rammed full with no chance of getting your bike on, or being completely empty and being able to get your bike on completely fine. They don't use the hooks, so tyre size isn't such an issue here, but like I said, they can get busy, so you will want to make sure you book your bike on before you travel. If you are going to be driving to the start of this ride, then the ride is actually going to be starting at Tiny Rebel Brewery, and there is ample parking and they are very bike friendly, so that is also a possibility. The Headstock 500 received an 8 out of 10 difficulty rating, so it's time to see how the Headstock 200 compares with the difficulty. Well, if you have entered or are thinking of entering this route because you thought the 500 was going to be hard, then I have some good news. This route is easier. Don't get me wrong, it still has its challenges. You will still be pushing yourself hard to overcome them challenges that a route like this throws in front of you. But it's easier, it's shorter, and it feels like every time you push yourself to overcome them challenges, you are rewarded with a little bit of respite, which the 500 sometimes doesn't feel like. So in terms of difficulty, I will give this a 7 out of 10. It's still a challenge, and you will be pushing yourself. But once you finish, you will feel like you have had a solid adventure with all the ups and downs that adventures like these bring. The 500 got a 7.5 on my overall rating. So which one did I prefer, and how will the 200 do? Well, I had an excellent adventure that had a bit of everything that Wales has to offer. The steep rough terrain, the epic descents. Of course, the weather. The ups and the downs. I think the 200 is on par with the 500, maybe even slightly more on the enjoyable side, so I will also give it a 7.5. I think it really is going to depend on what you are looking to get out of each ride. The 500 will certainly test your limits, both physically and mentally. It might even make you want to quit sometimes, whereas the 200 will still test you, it will still push you, you might even question why you are doing this. That's just a Wales bikepacking thing though, but just when you get to that point, you normally get to take a break, enjoy the views, realise you made it to the top of that steep climb, and now it's time to descend. The route will take you on an adventure through Wales, a ride that will probably make you want to come back to Wales for another bikepacking adventure soon.